This is David, pastor of Hamilton Life, and I want to thank you for taking a listen to our podcast. Excited about the message this morning because I believe it's something that we need to be reminded of. We have throughout our lives been evolving and changing and adapting to our environment. And I was with my grandfather, who's 83 years old. I was with him this weekend, and I knew he was old, but I just really didn't know how old. And I started asking him questions about his life, and I started realizing this human being, he's a human, is still alive and staring at me talking, and through his eyes, which probably have some cataracts, I mean, he's getting old, through his eyes, he has seen segregation, he's seen multiple wars. They didn't even have the interstate or the internet, but the interstate when he was driving. He remembers the introduction of the television, he remembers when it turned to color, all of this stuff. And I'm like, wow, this man, this living, breathing human, has seen 83 years of our world shifting and changing. And that ended up leading us to have this really deep conversation at the ocean about where we were going as a society. And I made the comment, and he agreed. You may disagree, and we'll find out in 100 years, but I think we've progressed more in this last 100 years than we'll be able to progress in the next 100. That in a way, and we can argue this on our own time over some drinks, but in a way, I feel like that we have evolved or changed so much as a culture, and now we've moved into a culture of preservation. So you think the interstates, the national parks were established. Now it's less about inventing or creating, and it's more about preserving. Come on, Apple, help us out. It's more about preserving the past than it is about creating the future. And I feel like we get caught up in that sometimes. We're trying to preserve our past instead of create our future. And as a society, we get caught up in whatever environment is taking place around us at the time. And so my grandparents had made some comments about how they at the time didn't believe in segregation. But it was countercultural, that they weren't raised to not believe in it, but they adapted or changed to fit the environment. They were countercultural to the environment because adaptation is both intrinsic but also a choice. That my grandparents could have easily chosen to ignore the shifts and changes in culture, but they chose to adopt it and to move forward into the future. And I feel like we have that same choice where we sit right now. Are we going to remain following culture and doing whatever is the norm or whatever everyone is telling us is appropriate? Or are we going to maintain the scriptures and keep moving? Because what I believe is even though the scriptures are ancient, they also propel us into the future. That if you think about the scriptures in the term specifically in racism, and that has nothing to do with my talk today, but they were countercultural. The scriptures are countercultural to how they viewed and treated women. They were counterculture. They were propelling people at an early age to look forward into the future. And I believe they're still doing that to us today. And so I believe it's our responsibility then to be aware of how we've changed some of our thought processes or our behaviors to match culture over the scriptures. That it becomes a choice for us to go, hey, what areas of my life are displeasing to God but are pleasing to the world? And how can I shift and change that? And that's what we've been talking about. We've been talking about how we adapt to culture. And last week we talked about money. If you weren't here, it was awkward. It's always awkward talking about money, but it was a fantastic conversation. It's on the podcast if you didn't hear it. Today I want to talk about time. Because I feel like, and I believe so strongly that we have this unique and interesting relationship with time, even more now than ever, that time is actually against us. I don't know if you knew this, but time is against you. It's not for you. If you notice, you start getting a little crow's feet. None of you, but some of me gets the little crow's feet, you know what I mean? Because time is against us. I'm not getting younger, though there is some things we could do to look younger. I'm not getting younger. Time is not helping me get younger. It's aging me. Time is moving us. And so we have to be very careful how we relate to time. Because we think we have an endless resource of it. Especially if you're under 20, you're just like, man, I've got all the time in the world. And the older you get, you start going, wow, I don't have a lot of time. And if you ever having a conversation with somebody in their late stages of life, like I did with my grandfather, you recognize he knows how important every moment. every conversation, every second is. He realizes the gravity of the time he has left, and I feel like we squander it. We miss the opportunity to lean into the moments and the times and the hours and the seconds to make the most of our life. Because we live on schedules. We live to move forward. What are some things that you guys do to that you just totally lose track of time? What are some things that you get into and you don't even know what time it is? You can shout it out. It's just us. Netflix? Yes. I hate when it asks me if I want to keep moving. We need to figure out a hack. Like, do you want to? Don't ask me. Don't be condescending. Yes, I want to keep watching. Just keep playing the next show until I'm done. Somebody else? Video games? Yep. My kids get lost for hours, and sometimes I do too. Somebody else? Reading? All right. She had to best us all. Like, oh, I'm going to read. Anybody else? Work? Oh, that's what it is. See, now you got to best us all. Hard work with grease and stuff. For me, and it'll be worse than all of you, it's the beach. We were just at the beach, and when you're there, I remember I looked over, I had family with me, and I said, hey, what time is it? I'm kind of hungry. And they're like, I don't know. There's like 10 of us, and nobody knew what time it was. I could look at the sun, but I had no idea what I was looking at. I didn't know what time it was, because you just lose track of time. There are moments that are so beautiful and so wonderful, and just you get caught up in them. There are also moments that are so tragic. If you've noticed, there are moments that are so tragic, you're reminded of how time works, and you can really remember tragedy, maybe even more than things that are good, because you're able to look inside of self. And so we have this weird relationship with time, but what we need to know is that time is against us. Time stands still for none of us, and we lose track of seconds and minutes and hours and days and weeks and months, and all of a sudden, you start measuring your life by years. Like I just told you how long I've known Nick, and we just covered 10 years or 11 years in just a sentence, in a few words. Because all of a sudden, at some point, we start measuring our lives in large swatches of time instead of seconds and minutes and moments, because we're constantly looking to move and plan and do. And I believe that we have this interesting but also extraordinary relationship with time, in that the people who have time trade their time for money, and the people that have money trade their money to try to buy back time. So if you're here and you work a job, which is the vast majority of us, maybe even all of us, you're trading your time for money. But if you were to win the lottery, you would start trading your money, and you would start, I wouldn't mow my yard. I would have someone mow my yard. I would start trading my time, my money, for someone else's time, because that's the relationship that we have with time and money. The two tend to flow together. Those that have more money end up trying to save some of their time, because the reality is we don't get that time back. That this might be a little depressing, but we don't get this moment back, or that one, or that one, or that one. I'm just wasting your moments now. I'm wasting your seconds. It's going fast, sorry. The idea is that we don't get it back, that it's gone, and when it's gone forever. It is the only resource that we have that we can completely deplete and will not be able to be green enough to be able to sustain. We just can't. We cannot be thrifty enough with our time to get it back, because we all still have the exact same time at the end of the day. And it's depressing to think Mark Zuckerberg had the same time, and he created something that shifted and changed the world. What have we done? The idea, though, is that we have time, the same time some of the greatest people on earth have, but we just choose to use it differently. That I think time is essentially one of our greatest enemies. That if you look at time objectively, you realize it is our greatest enemy, because it actively takes from you, and it often gives you nothing in return. Time actually comes and it takes everything from us. Everything that you love, everything that you hold dear, including Nick and Samara, time takes them from us. Time takes everything and it gives us nothing back. But what's so interesting is that we live in a world that worships people who go faster, who do more. While I was away, I was talking to my aunt, and she said that she was feeling guilty about being at the beach. And I said, oh, I guess I am too now. Maybe we should be doing something better or something else. You feel guilty about relaxing. You feel guilty about watching Netflix or playing video games or reading. You don't feel guilty about going to work. You feel guilty about some of the things that we get caught up in, because we've been told to celebrate people who do more. That your value is based on how much you can accomplish and how much you can do, and not about the fact that you're living your life to the fullest. And I think playing games is living your best life. So the idea is that we celebrate this so much that we get caught up in doing more. And I think it's less about doing more and more about living more. It's less about doing more stuff to make the most of our time and about living more of the time that we have and not squandering it or wasting it away. That I believe that we have this opportunity to change how we see the world, to change how we relate to time, to change how we relate to the situations that we're in, and we have to actively fight against culture and the cultural norm. We have to actively fight against what is seen as acceptable and normal and not feel guilty for spending time relaxing or resting or leaning into moments that are beautiful and taking time and lingering. These are words that we don't even hardly use anymore, to linger, to stay, to stick around, to wait. We don't use these words because we're going. And even now, I'm watching the clock, and I know I've got 20-some minutes left, and I'm thinking, what are we going to do? We got to get to the next thing and the next thing, and I got to go get lunch, and on and on. And for Christmas, my sister-in-law, she bought me this antique pocket watch. And it was really cool. I looked at it, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. It's old. It's got some inscriptions on it. Checked to see how much it was worth first, because I could pawn it for cash. And then I was looking around. I'm like, okay, this is really cool. I love old things. And she said, you got to wind it. I was like, okay, so I'll wind it, and all of a sudden this thing just takes off, and it's making the loudest ticking noise you could imagine. Margie's going to bring it. I'll have it for second service if you want to stick it around. It's just loud. It's like tick, 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 tick. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll keep it by my bed because that'll be kind of a nice, it's just annoying. Then I thought, well, I'll pack it with me. I stuck it in my pocket, and I could hear it in my pocket just ticking away, and it was driving me mad because it was reminding me of every second I was losing. And I'm like, no. So now it's in a closet, not wound at all, because I don't want to be reminded of every second that's ticking. Now my watch just tells me in minutes, and I raise it and it says, hey, it's the next minute, and it's a little better. But the idea is that we don't think about the fact that time is running from us fast. It is fleeing from us, and if we're not careful, we will waste the most precious commodity that we have. And you may have remembered this from school, or we've talked about this here before, but in Greek mythology, there's Kairos and there's Chronos. And Chronos was an old man. He was the one who kept things moving along. Chronos was the man who kept things going in a chronological order. It's where we get the word chronology. And in Greek mythology, he was the one that brought the next day to you. So you go to bed, the next day come, they would think Chronos, all right? Again, this is Greek mythology, not reality. But the clock would work in a way that would be chronological. And so they would talk about Chronos in a way that he kept bringing time, bringing the day, bringing the new day. And what was interesting about Chronos is that he would take things from you. In fact, in Greek mythology, I won't share this second service, but it's just us. There's this picture. You can find it online. We won't show it. But it's Chronos biting the head off of a baby because it's saying time comes for everything. Yeah, no offense. Sorry that your baby's in the room. I didn't make the picture. I'm just saying, yeah, sorry. You can walk out if you want. It won't hurt my feelings. I'm used to it. Yeah, no. We can't have a second boo. Don't try to start that. No. The idea was that he would take everything because that's what he did. And to be honest with you, and this is I didn't plan to share this with you, but I will. I feel like it's important. I had the my cousin passed away in January, February, I forget. I should know. And maybe it was March. Either way, he passed away. He was 37 years old. And he passed away. He had a brain injury, and he passed away in his sleep as an aneurysm. It's very tragic. And so I went to Henderson, Kentucky, and was able to speak at his funeral. And while I had a few days to prepare, I was like, what am I going to share? What am I going to talk about? What do I do? What do you say at a funeral like that? And this idea of Chronos came to mind immediately. And I began to carve out this very same information to share. Because Chronos would come for your time. He would come and number your days. So when we count how old we are, you're 34 years old, you're 38 years old, or you're young, however you want to say that. But ideally, we're putting a number to it. But the other character in Greek mythology was Kairos. And Kairos would come to us in moments. He was this young, beautiful, flying boy, which is where we get the stories from Peter Pan. And he would fly into moments that you didn't expect, and he would surprise you with these beautiful moments. And he was all about living life to its fullest, where Chronos was all about time and schedules and getting things done. Kairos was coming and bringing you beautiful moments. As I was sharing at my cousin's funeral, I began to put the two, it was a juxtaposition between Chronos and Kairos and how we can measure my cousin's life in years. He died 37 years young. He was way too young to die. Or we can measure it in chronos, that he lived his life to his fullest, that he lived and got the absolute most out of his life that he possibly could in a short amount of time that he could have lived it. I feel like for us so often we're dictated by chronos. And chronos will take your time from you. You don't have to give him anything. He's taking it regardless. But what happens so often when we're focused on chronos, or the time, or the schedule, or the events, we lose sight of kairos, that kairos is coming and bringing us beautiful surprises. And he's talking about the quantity of time, chronos is, but kairos is talking about the quality of time. And so often we lose track of where we're at. We lose track of the quality versus the quantity, and we look at how little time we have left, but we don't really lean into the fact that we have a lot to live for. And I think it's so important that we understand, and the scriptures reinforce this, that we understand the quality of time over quantity, that we understand living in every moment, that we understand making the most of surprises, and we understand these moments as being beautiful and wonderful that are brought to us. And so in Ecclesiastes 3, the Bible begins to describe this. It says there's an occasion for everything. You've probably heard the 70s song. And a time for every activity under heaven, a time to give birth, and a time to die, and a time to plant, and a time to uproot, and a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to tear down, a time to build, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, a time to throw stones, and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, and a time to avoid embracing, a time to search, and a time to count as lost, a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. And what's so interesting is that the Hebrews thousands of years ago did not measure time like you and I did. In fact, they didn't count. They didn't count people. The fact that we count people in a room on a Sunday is probably very foreign to anyone who may have looked down on us from that time period. They didn't count. They didn't count things. In fact, many of the numbers in the Bible are a little bit fuzzy because they weren't accustomed to counting people. When you think Jesus fed 5,000, most likely that was 5,000 men. Then there were women and children. When you think about some of the people that gathered to see Jesus and they give a number, generally that's a vague amount because they didn't believe in counting. They counted livestock. They counted animals, but they didn't count people. So it's very odd when we would count people. They would measure time dramatically different. They wouldn't say it's 10:15. If you said, what time is it? They wouldn't say it's 10:15. They would say it's almost fall. It still feels like summer. They wouldn't, if we said, hey, what time is it in New York? They'd say, oh, it's fall. What time would they say in Syria? It's wartime. They would dictate the times by the moments or the seasons or whatever was taking place or happening at the time. They didn't say 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock. They didn't say it's September 2nd. They didn't say time and dates like we do. It was in moments. But we measure our time by chronos. They were measuring their time by kairos. And I feel like in this attempt and effort to measure our time by chronos, we are missing the idea that we need to embrace, that there's a time for embracing and a time to avoid, a time to speak and a time to love and hate. There's wartime and peacetime. There are moments that come to us. And instead of recognizing that there is time that comes and goes, we begin to recognize there are moments that come and go, and we can't forget them. And so what I want to do is I want to help you get your life back. I want to help you get your time back. I want to mess with the way that you view time forever. Is that good with you? Can we mess with the way we listen or view or look every time you open your watch up? I want you to think about chronos. And I want you to think about kairos. I want you to think about the fact that chronos is ticking your watch, but kairos is inviting you to look up and look around and see what's happening because there's beauty all around us. But we've been so programmed as a culture to look down and look at what's just immediate that we don't look up and realize that there's a beautiful world awaiting us to experience and to step into it. And I was reminded while we were on vacation a time ago. We traveled out west. We did a bunch of national parks. And you probably saw some of the pictures. They're gorgeous pictures, beautiful scenery. What you probably didn't see, because we don't take pictures of that, is that if you took a picture really far away, all you would see is people, just a sea of people standing in front of whatever mountain or tree was there. And every single one of those people, hundreds, they were all standing there. I don't have my phone. They're all standing there with their phones out, taking pictures. I'm taking pictures of people taking pictures. You know, we're taking pictures. We're trying to capture the moment. But in trying to capture the moment, what we're doing is we're not really living in the moment. We're trying to freeze time, which we know we can't do. And it's great. I take pictures too. We try to freeze the moment. But it's really sad to look and see that there are people in these gorgeous places that are just staring at their phones. We were at the beach, and my grandmother, who's 82 years old, stayed on her phone more than anyone else. I think she's just discovering the cell phone. We would have to stop her, go, hey, we're talking. You want to join us? In a very low-key way. So we didn't offend her, but she was in her phone more than anybody because we've become accustomed to that. And what's so interesting in the way that we get our life back is that we have to practice two things. The first is we have to embrace the disruption. The reality is that we have to understand that disruptions are not always bad things. I see them as horrible things. I see disruptions as terrible, terrible things because a disruption is defined as a problem or interruption to the program. And I am a program person all the way through and through. I love a program. I have a calendar on my wall, a physical paper calendar. I have a calendar on my phone and my iPad, and it hits my watch. I like scheduling, and I don't like disruptions. And Monday or Tuesday, my aunt had sent my wife a message because she knew better than to send me one, and she said, hey, our whole family's down here at the beach. You should come down. And so Margie said, hey, your family's at the beach. Let's go. And I said, cool. Like next week, next month, next season, when? She said, Thursday. And I said, it's Tuesday. And she said, yeah, let's go Thursday. And I said, next Thursday, a couple of Thursdays, we got to put this down on the schedule. She said, no, let's just go. And I'm like, I got stuff. I got things planned. I got Saturdays planned. It's booked up. At Sunday, I'm here. All this stuff's going on. And she said, let's just go. Let's just go. I'm like, no, my program. Do you get mad? Anybody else program people? I get angry. I'm like, ugh. And I can feel it like welling. Only people who get that way understand. It's like welling up. I'm like, no. And I said, no. I did. I said, no, absolutely not. I said, that's ridiculous. Why would we drive all the way down there Thursday? And, we got stuff. Kids got school. No way, no way. And then I got a message later from my cousin. She's like, hey, you're coming, right? It's kind of guilt trip stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. And I was talking to a buddy, and he's like, why not? He's just like this Chronos guy, He's just, let's just do it, And I'm like, or Kairos guy. And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, just go. What's stopping you? What else you got to do that's better? I mean, you just go. And I'm like, all right, so we go, and I'm driving down the road going, this is dumb for 6 hours. I'm like, this is so stupid. Tire blows out. I'm like, I told you, should have stayed home. This wouldn't have happened if we stayed home because tires only go out on the interstate. And we get there, and then I've realized the beauty. In a moment with my grandparents who are aging, I realized the beauty of spending time with loved ones and family members. I realized the beauty in spending time on the ocean and breathing in the air and just taking a deep breath. But because I'm so programmed, and many of you are too, we miss opportunities. And I think they're divine, even though they may not feel divine. I think they're divine moments. My kids often are those disruptions. If you have kids, there's large disruptions in your life. And I just get caught up in just getting stuff done, getting them to bed, getting them awake, getting them to school, getting them fed, keeping them alive, and just forget the fact that they're positive disruptions. I look up and I can't believe Roman's foot is the same size as mine. He steals my shoes and wears them now, and it makes me furious. I remember that he was born right before Father's Day. I was in the hospital on Father's Day, and they put his foot on a card, stamped it like they do and they put a foot on a card and handed it to me for Father's Day. It was like that big, and now it's the same size. It'll be bigger than mine. And I promise you that was yesterday. It just went like that. Because I've been putting them to bed, and I've been getting them up, and I've been getting things done, and they've been safe and fine. But I've missed all of these moments. Some of them I've leaned into. I've found moments that I can reflect back on and go, yeah, we made the most of that. But I miss so much because I'm so caught up on whatever's next. I'm so caught up in what's happening. And in Psalms 90, David says this, teach us to number our days carefully, so that we may develop wisdom in our hearts. He's comparing numbering our days, counting our days, listening to that clock tick by with wisdom. That he's actually saying, and again, this is countercultural because nobody counted. He's saying, no, I want you to count your time because it's valuable. It's only when you start counting something that you actually appreciate how it's disappearing. And so I think so much of our lives is wasted because we're just waiting to get to that next second, that next minute, and we're missing every single moment. And I think we have to fight it. Every second we have to take back, we have to lean into, because the scriptures tell us that you're actually a fool for wasting your time. The second thing I want you to know, in order for us to take back our life, to take back our time, is that we have to be the disruption. We have to be the disruption. That's the thing. My wife is the disruptor in my life. She is. She is the total disruptor in my life. I get so mad, and she takes a lot from me in a healthy way. It's not bad. The idea is that she is a constant disruptor. She will wake up on a Saturday and go, let's go drive to wherever. I'm like, what? We should have talked about this a month ago. No, we don't just get up on a Saturday and go do something. You plan on a Thursday, and then you work towards that, and you get things ready. She's a disruptor in my life. She is. But what was so fun is that when we decided that we were going to go to the beach, we didn't tell our kids. And so Thursday morning, I woke them all up. I said, hey, it's time to go to school. And they were like, why are you home? Because I'm usually gone. And I said, oh, I'm just going to take you to school today. They go to a thing. And I said, come on, let's get ready for school. Go get dressed, get your breakfast. And when they did that, we brought them all into the bedroom. And they all came in the bedroom. And we don't do that very often. And they kind of looked at both of us. And Margie goes, do you know what's going on? And Roman goes, one of our kids go, are you getting a divorce? I'm like, why do you always go there? So then we spent 5 minutes talking about how that's never going to happen, consoling our children. And then we told them we were going to the beach, so you can imagine how happy they were when they realized it wasn't that, but it was this. But it was so awesome to be the disruptor in their lives. They thought they were going to class. They thought they were going about their regular everyday schedules, but we got to be the disruption. See, I think you and I get to be the disruption in other people's lives as well. I think we have this divine opportunity to not just look for interruptions, but we can actually be the disruption as well, that we can step into those moments and we can help people understand how important they are. And I tried to do that in a healthy way with my family. I'm like, hey, let's all just leave our phones in the room and go to the beach. We don't have to have pictures, you know? Like, let's just trying to, without being that guy. You know, nobody wants to be that guy, but I am that guy sometimes. I'm like, let's go to dinner and let's leave our phones back, you know? Like, that's a crazy thought, but let's just lean into these moments, the time we have together. And let's not get so caught up in what's going on around us that we don't realize how beautiful life is. And in James 4, it says this. It says, come now, you who say today or tomorrow we will travel to such and such city and spend a year there and do business and make profits. He's talking about the way that we live our lives. This is the way that I live my life. I am worried about today and tomorrow, and I'm traveling for business, and I'm trying to make a profit. And he says, you don't even know what tomorrow will bring, what your life will be. For you are like smoke that appears for a little while, then vanishes. That's us. That's how we've been described, as smoke that vanishes. If you were here for worship, you know that there was some haze in the room. It's all gone now. That's how he's equating our lives. We're here. We'll be gone in just a minute. And I don't want that to be depressing. I want that to inspire and encourage you if it can. That we're here for now, so let's make the most of it. Let's have those conversations with the people that we love. Let's take risks in building relationships. Let's go out of our way. Let's not look. I'm trying really hard to not look at my bank account as much as I am money, though you have to really work that. Don't go into debt to have a good time. But the idea is that we're more concerned about having a lot of money and not building a lot of memories. But you can always make more money, but you can't always make more memories. Again, don't go in debt to make memories. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to rethink how we live our lives. You don't have to spend money to make memories. I need more often to just wake my kids up in the middle of the night. You know, one of the memories I have more often than any of growing up was my parents woke me up and it was snowing out. We lived in Indiana and it snowed a lot. And they woke us up in the middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning and said, come on, let's go play in the snow. I'll never forget it. Didn't cost us a dime. And I spend so much money trying to help my kids have great memories. They're probably going to remember the dumbest things like that. So why not help create those disruptions? Why not make those disruptions happen in other people's lives? We don't just embrace the disruption, but we become the disruptors. That we look into moments and times, and we live them to our fullest. I praise Nick and Samara. I think it's terrible that you're leaving, but you're embracing the moment. You're only your age for that time. You're embracing the moment. You're doing what's necessary. And I don't think everybody should move to California. In fact, no one else is allowed to leave the church this year. Everybody else has to stay. We've locked that down. But we can find ways that fit into our schedules and our routines. You still got to go to class. You still got to go to work. But we can find ways to take a different route home. Go hiking in a different trail. Go do things that are unique and different and watch how God begins to open up those doors. And we start counting and numbering our days. We start paying attention to how little time we have left so that we make the most of the time that we do have. And that's God's intention for our lives. is that we embrace those moments, that we look to people around us and try to instill the presence of God into their life, that we point them to Jesus, we reflect God in every area. But we don't do that because we're so caught up in going our directions. But let's embrace that. Let's be people who understand the value of time. We make the absolute most of it, and I believe fully that that's God's intentions for us, that we recognize those kairos moments. So I'll close with this. I started numbering my days, and I guessed I'd live to probably be 90, which is pretty good. I mean, I eat healthy, and I do some stuff in the gym, so you know what I mean. I'm probably going to live longer, but 90 seemed like a good timeline. And so if I live to be 90, I actually calculated it up today, and this is my Bible. This is not one. I have a couple. I don't use this one often. My wife bought it for me in 2000 before she was my wife. It says Margie Peach. And I like this Bible, though I don't like the translation. It doesn't matter. The idea is that there are a lot of pages in this Bible. Let's see. I can tell you how many. Maybe. There's so much stuff in this. Why don't I just make a Bible? There's a bunch of pages. There's several thousand. Anyway, I did the math. Here it is, 2,335. I did the math. And if I read one page of this Bible every single day for the remainder of my life, 50-some years, 51 years left, 52, I think, I will read through this Bible 7 times. So I could read a page a day and get through this 7 times, then I'm done. Then I'm gone. Then I'm history. I'm legacy. That's not, I mean, when you start putting a number like 7, that's not a lot. Now, granted, reading a page every day would be a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of time. I'm not committing to doing that. I'm just saying, when you start measuring your time, when you start looking deeply at your life and realize time is not slowly moving from us, it's rapidly being taken from us. You realize if I only read this 7 times, I'd be gone. So why not make the most of those 50-some years that I have left? Why not 51? Why not make the most of it? Let's reclaim that time. Let's take back time. And let's see how God wants us to use that time appropriately. And watch how God reaches us and meets us. Many of the times we don't sense God or see God or feel God because we're so caught up in Chronos that God comes to us in those Kairos moments. I walked out onto the beach. It's the first time I've been in a while. And you look out at the ocean, and you better believe God's presence was there. Without a doubt. As you watch the sunset over the ocean, God's there. But it's easy to miss because I want to Instagram it. And I did. But I also stopped and I put my phone away and I said, where are you, God? Where are you? So I just wonder, how many moments do we need to stop and go, where are you, God? Where are you in this moment? Because God's not just at the beach. He's wherever we go. He's following us. He's with us. He's everywhere. Where is he? And we need to stop and ask, where are you, God? When something tragic happens, ask God, where are you? Where are you, God? When your kids disrupt you or whatever happens, where are you, God? When I got the call at midnight and I knew that Jared wasn't going to make it today, I said, okay, God, where are you? Where are you, God? Where are you? Well, we can stop, pause, and see where God is. And even if it's just for a minute, just lean into that moment and watch how we begin to sense God all the more. I want us to make the most of our time. So we can look back and we can reflect and we can see that we lived a big life, that we dared, that we were courageous, that we made the most of the time we were given. If you would bow your head and close your eyes. Father, we thank you so much that you've given us time here on earth. I thank you that you've given us time here. So, Father, help us be mindful of the time that we have left. Help us be mindful of the ways that you're leading us and guiding us so that we don't just get caught up in our own schedules and routines, but we lean into wherever you're leading us. That those moments, those Kairos moments, end up being the moments that define us. Not the Chronos, but the Kairos. That they define us. May we find you in those moments, in those memories that surprise us, sneak up on us. May we not be so caught up in living and doing that we're not living. So, Father, we thank you so much that you're reminding us today that every minute counts, every second matters, and that you're with us through all of it. So may we live life the way you've called us to live and number our days so that we may be considered wise in your eyes. So, Father, we thank you that you meet us right here. So may you bless us and keep us. May you make your face to shine upon us and be gracious to us. May you turn your face toward us. And Father, we ask that you give us peace in all things, in all moments, in all seasons. We embrace peace that comes directly from you. We thank you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. If you would stand.
For more information on our church and how you can support the ministry, you can visit us online at hamiltonlifechurch.com.